I've been pulled through time between the past and the present and the future.
Everything is turning to
I wanted to start off by talking about episode 1 because you can literally feel all the nervous energy from everything kind of falling apart. And that's quite new for Loki, who's usually like the man with the plan. He's usually very like he knows what's going on. But this time you see him kind of like in distress. What was it like kind of taking the character down this path of uncertainty?
Yeah. You know, it was something that kind of came from Tom in early conversations of, like this is a Loki that we've never seen him in this kind of distress. And part of that is just a direct correlation from the end of season 1, which is like, he had completely selflessly given himself over to somebody in a way that he had never done before. So he is like as emotionally raw as possible when he gets pushed through that time door. Is going in panic to those archives to hopefully find the welcoming arms of Mobius and B-15, and then they don't remember him. And like, so I think it's the emotional distress he was in, and then just like the absolute like devastation of no one even knows who I am. And so as we started getting into just developing season 2, it was like, well, we could fast forward this. But this feels like such meaty character development, and then informed this like the entire aesthetic going into that first season, because not only is Tom kind of acting his heart out, but I think the camera work and the look of the world this season kind of embraces that very tension-filled, things are falling apart, they're walking through hallways, lights are breaking, things are flickering.
Very on edge.
Everything is we wanted to just sell that story of everything is going wrong. Everything is falling apart.
You talked in previous interviews about how you didn't want to make a carbon copy of season 1. You really wanted to take it forward. And I just wondered, what do you think the biggest changes from season 1 to season 2, and what can viewers expect beyond episode 1?
Yeah, and I do think I do think these are 2 chapters of the same book. So it isn't like, oh, we just, everything that you loved about it. I think that this season really is a love letter to fans of season 1. But the thing that we figured out very quickly was in season 1, people liked how unexpected it was. And that if you then try to just go and do that same thing, it's no longer unexpected.
Yeah.
You're trying to. So I think it was about deepening the world, deepening the characters, and a lot of what is changing is we are pushing all of these characters into completely new territory. If season 1 was, Kate Herron talked a lot about in season 1, it was about the search for identity. Who are you? What's your place in the universe? How do you fit in? This is the natural kind of extension of that, but in a scary way. Like Loki is being pushed into areas that he's never experienced before. The TVA for eons has thought it was one thing. They don't know who they are anymore. They don't know what they're doing anymore. Sylvie was searching for free will. She gives it to everybody. She now finally has it. Where does she go? She wants to go and have a life. And then that life is very quickly going to be taken from her because she has to go and join this team again. So I don't think it's different in that we threw out the rules. It's extended, and it was about, let's not repeat ourselves. Let's not just tell the same story, and allow. Again, this was something Kate Herron said at the end of season 1. This feels like a vehicle that the filmmaker can hand the reins to another filmmaker and let them put their fingerprints on it. As she felt like she told her story. And so much about this was like inviting Justin and Aaron in, and Dan and Catherine and other directors, and continuing that.
So speaking of Sylvie as well, we find her in 1982, Oklahoma. Is there something like intentional about that year and that place and that time, or is this just a random place that she's picked?
Roxon, Oklahoma is a little bit of an Easter egg from the comics. I think there's a fun little deep dive there that is a nice reference to Sylvie Lushton's character in the comics. The era and that place, really, it's a metaphor. It's like there's a nostalgic lens that we look at that through, and it was about finding her the opposite of a apocalypse. A small town where even at a McDonald's, people know each other's names, a place where she can start to make friends. We'll see more of this town as the season progresses. It was about giving her a world that could feel like a life. And the McDonald's thing was like this lens of nostalgia for me, and I think for a lot of other people, of like, yeah, when there'd be birthday parties, I would go to a McDonald's, like play Little League. For me, it was baseball, and like you finish a game and you go with your team.
It's a happy place.
Yeah, and it was like, there was just something fun about it. And like Sylvie's never had that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of came from that story place.
I also want to ask about Miss Minutes because she develops in a really, really interesting way. Did you always intend for her to be like a bad scene, or was this like a natural development of the story?
A little bit of both. I think season 1, we really liked that reveal of she's holding more cards than she's letting on. And it was about seeing that through. And so much of it then kind of came organically about what her role was with He Who Remains. And it pushed it in a lot of interesting directions. But she's always manipulating and has her own angle.
How dangerous is she? And this team up between her and Ren Slayer in particular.
I would say a lot of the events of those first 4 episodes, everything going wrong, is a large part because of her.
Yeah.
The TVA falling apart, and look, I think the choices Ren Slayer is making, and there's pretty scary choices that she makes. She's certainly probably being manipulated by Miss Minutes on some level.
I would not doubt it. With this current climate, and we don't really know where things would go with Jonathan Major's character, is there a world, or can you see a world in which Miss Minutes and Ren Slayer are the ultimate evil duo?
That question, just even on its own, the Miss Minutes Ren Slayer, I think is intriguing. And obviously, anyway, Miss Minutes is a new character. We can do all sorts of fun, evil things with her. Ren Slayer in the comics has just this rich history of being a really great villain. And just the fact that it's Gugu, I would love to see more of her in all sorts of places. So I think so much of what we're doing anyway for our entire ensemble is building them out so like the rest of the MCU can embrace them and bring them into their own stories.
Victor Timely's death in episode 4, how will that affect the other variants? Because obviously he was the beginning, he was the start of everything, so is that going to affect them in a massive way?
Well, I mean, at the end of episode 4, everything's gone.
That's, yeah.
They're all gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's everybody's in quite a bit of danger.
You spoke about Miss Minutes and Ren Slayer potentially expanding into the wider MCU. Are those conversations that have already been had, or is that rumbling?
No,
is that going on?
I think for us, and this has been for 2 seasons of Loki now, by the end of this we'll have almost 12 hours of story. We always try to play in our corner of the sandbox and make it really exciting and make it really appealing. And certainly, I think everybody involved kind of hopes that other filmmakers want to pick those up. And it's like, I think they will. I like it just even in conversations with Kevin Feige, it's like, I know he loves the TVA, he loves these characters. And like I said, we've always thought of these 2 seasons as 2 chapters of the same book. There are like so many other books on that shelf that we can tell stories from.
And just quickly, finale.
Yeah.
Will we be left with more questions than answers? Is there going to be a massive cliffhanger? What can you tell me about it?
I'll say, and I've said this elsewhere, we didn't want to do this season 1 cliffhanger again. 2 chapters, same book. Your book has to have an ending to be fulfilling in some way. I can't spoil anything. I don't want to. I'll just say, I think those last 2 episodes, because of where the first 4 go, we're able to go to some like really profoundly beautiful places in those episodes.